Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. Today, I have Nickita Starck with me, and I'm so delighted. I first heard Nickita on a podcast of a friend of mine, my astrology teacher, who I often mention, Anna Isabel, and I was just very taken with her work, her energy, her language, her way of speaking. I was just saying it to her before we started recording. It just really landed in me. And I just think she has a very unique way of communicating that is really needed. And she was talking about the right and the left brain. I think she does marry the two very well together, and she'll share more about that. But Nickita, for those of you who may not have come across her, she's a traditional birth keeper, and she's had 14 years of experience and she founded When Push Comes to Shove. It's a global initiative offering holistic maternity care in over 10 countries. And her work is deeply rooted in health education, human rights, and she champions, which I love, a spiritually conscious approach to childbirth. And she's educated, it could be more by now, but at the time I listened to her, 130 natural birth practitioners, and she offers superior birth education, which is not found in the mainstream. Um, she also, where I then became more involved, I haven't children of my own, but I have been the child of a mother who has had her own experiences. And I think it's so important how the children that are coming into the world, how they are coming in, how they're supported and their mothers are, and because they are the future as well, the children that we're bringing into the world. But she's also an internationally renowned speaker known for her impactful talks that aim to heal trauma and empower women. And that's a passion of mine. It really is. This podcast, and I know many of you will know, is really about hopefully creating a very sacred space where women can come on and share their stories, their own stories of their own challenges, and really feel safe to open up. And in doing so, inspire you and other women to realize they have choice in their lives, they have power, and they have such infinite potential. And it's the journey I'm on, and I think it's the journey we're all on, and we can hold hands together and do it. We do it together. We never do it alone. And yeah, that is a passion of mine. So that's why I'm so delighted to have Nickita on. And one other thing, just to say as well, she has a blog. This is where again I started to move into some of her other work, and it's focused on healing core wounds and spiritual self development. And the last I heard, I know she's trending on Substack, and I never knew there was such a thing to trend on Substack. Excuse me, but she's trending on Substack for health and wellness, and I went, wow, the times are a changing. Welcome, Nickita. What's it like to trend on Substack?
Thank you, Celine. I didn't know it was a thing either. I opened my Substack one day and it said you're trending at number 27. And I was like, what? And then the next day I was 12.
Wow.
It's gone now. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it was number 12. And I thought, wow, people are really waking up. Because I just wrote for writing's sake. I didn't have an agenda. I just thought I'd write about what I know and my experience. And it's really landing for people.
That's the word. That's the word I could only say. When I read it, I was like, I was stopped in my tracks. I can't, and I still can't put words on it. I was saying this to you before. Something was just, I feel this. I suppose that's the word. I feel this. It's like my cells were going, I know this. I know this. That's it's like a recognition, maybe.
Yeah, I think as we were saying before you hit record, I'm very 50-50 left right brain. So I think I seem to have a way to speak to people that will tickle the fancy of the creative right brain and the linear left brain. And I'm trying to marry the two together. I'm trying to bridge the gap between woo woo. I'm not, well, I suppose I am woo woo, but that's not my method, and the scientific, the psychological, the analytical brain, bridging them together. You can use the word 3D and 5D, left, right brain, love and fear. I mean, even down to the religious, the heaven, the hell, the ego, the true nature,
Wow.
and it's all the same thing. But I'm trying to gently provoke questions because I don't believe we're we're doing this external stuff anymore, because there's always been a guru, or there's external validation, external salvation. We're done with that. The answer lies within. And what I'm trying to do, I'm no one's guru. I'm pointing. I can't heal people. No one can heal anyone. You can only heal yourself. So I'm just trying to point at, come on, where are your wounds? No one makes you feel anything, for example. I hear it all the time when I get calls at When Push Comes to Shove. My midwife made me feel like this. And I gently say, well, where are your feelings? Where do they take place? Inside you or outside of you? And they're inside of you. So how can anyone make you feel anything? What they're doing, you say the word trigger, but it's actually a glimmer, because what they're doing is they're holding a mirror to a wound inside you that needs healing. That's it. And we do this all the time. We project, we bitch, we moan, we complain. This person did this. Yeah, but why are they in your life? What's familiar? What is familiar in that wound inside of you? And what I'm trying to do is just have a little sort of arrow pointing in and saying, don't outsource your well-being. Don't
I
outsource it.
like that.
Because I really believe that when we start having a true awakening, there's two levels of awakening, and I might go into that in a minute. It's appropriate. But when you start to remember who you are at your core, underneath the layers of trauma. So people think that healing is focused on a victim perpetrator model. This happened to me, therefore I'm wounded, and therefore I have to cope. And that's what therapy tends to do. I'm not saying there's no place for therapy, because there is. But what I'm trying to do is say, well, though, no, that isn't healing, that's coping, and that's soothing. And soothing is not healing. So let's use the analogy of tidying a room. All right. People think that healing is tidying a room. I'll put this there and that there. That isn't healing. Imagine a light bulb and it's covered in dust. Yeah. And you scratch off a bit of dust and more light comes through. That's healing. So we can use soothing with healing. I'm going to go to my yoga retreat, and I'm going to go and have this healing modality, and I'm going to go and do plant medicine. That's not healing. It is soothing. Although plant medicine, but people think that it does the work for you. It doesn't. It just points. It points to where you need to heal. And people go, well, I've gone to therapy once a week. That's not healing. That's soothing.
Where
Healing.
did you learn this language? Where did you yourself, like, you're very, what was the word? You're sort of very embodied in it when you speak about it. Like, how did this, I mean, I know that's probably another story. How did this all, I mean, probably bring you back a little bit, but just before how did this all start for you? Just to give people a sense of, because listening to you, I can feel it. Like, I know what you're saying is true. For me, I can't say for anyone else. And I think anyone listening will, if they're in, depending on where you are. So yeah, just maybe give us a little glimmer of how it all.
I like everyone who's had a radical awakening. I didn't have the easiest of childhoods. I'm not saying this to get sympathy. Woe is me. I had a mother with a very disorganized attachment, very unwell mentally. Not that anyone knew anything then. Emotionally unavailable father. Did have some difficult times in childhood. I'm not going to go into it. There's no point, because it's just a story. It's a script. It doesn't matter. I am where I am.
Yeah.
And I became very, very good at psychology because I had to. I would pay attention. I was playing chess in my head, every step ahead of what my mum was going to do next. Or I just watched people. And I ended up doing A-level psychology, and I bought every book that I could find. But then I realized this is intellectualizing wounds. Doesn't work. It just makes you're able to vocalize it better. It doesn't heal you. Knowing you've got a disorganized attachment, or knowing that someone you're with has borderline personality disorder, that's just awareness. That's not healing. That's just being able to add a word. It doesn't heal. So my mother died in 2014. She died of mesothelioma, which is a rare form of cancer, but will become more common because it's caused by talcum powder, asbestos. So she died very, very quickly. Now, I had a very complicated relationship with her. And after she died, I lost it. Like, so before she died, I never drank. I was never interested in drugs or anything like that. Purely from a trauma perspective, I needed control. I can't be getting
Mm.
drunk because I need control. And then I lost it. I started to gravitate towards people that reflected exactly how I felt about myself, which is I hated myself. Absolutely hated myself. And then I got to such a dark place. Everything externally was fucked. Let's say it was awful. I looked around where I was. I'd lost my home. Um, I was taking a lot of drugs. And I just looked around and I thought, oh my God, this is a direct reflection of my inner world. And I went deep. And one night I thought, I don't want to be here anymore. And I left my body. And I saw myself and I thought, oh, you poor soul, you've done this to yourself. Not from a blame perspective, more from a byproduct perspective, if that makes sense. You know, blame is different to accountability and taking responsibility.
Mm.
And I thought, I don't love myself, and this is why my world is reflecting that. I can't keep on blaming my mum. She's not here. I can't blame my dad. He's got his sticky stuff over there. He's in his trauma and his wounds. And if I expect to have a relationship with my dad that he's not able to give, what the hell? Like, I'm playing a record over and over again, expecting to hear a different song, or I'm moving around seats in a movie theater because I don't like the film. What? It doesn't make any sense. It's me. So I had this implosion, and I suddenly woke up. I thought, this is on you, girl. You've got to learn to love you. And the second I started to do that and went within, I felt like almost I'd got therapy fatigue from reading all the books and stuff. And I thought, I'm just intellectualizing my pain. I know what all this is, but I'm not doing anything about it. So I went deep within. It was wildly uncomfortable, Celine, wildly
How did
uncomfortable.
you do it? Because many people are going to be listening going, I just said to you before we were started recording that a friend I hadn't seen in a long time said that. Think, how do you do the work? You know, and I know there's not maybe a nice cookie cutter answer to that, but maybe just sharing a little bit of how you did it. Because it
Well,
sounds like that's how you got the blend of the two. You had to go on that journey in the head first, and then you had to go deep, and then you're marrying the two now for people.
I will give you the steps, and it's now known as the
Okay.
Stark method because this is what I teach. So I run a club, I suppose, called Awaken Self Healers, and if you follow me on Substack, you'll have the chance to subscribe. And we do this work together. So it's called the Stark method now, and it was a method that I have created over time, and what's working. So let's start with a backstory and why people find it so hard to do the healing, and then I'll go into the Stark method. So when we're born, we are the most authentic we will ever be. We have no fears that someone has taught us. You know, you've got to be afraid of snakes, or you've got to be afraid of people that do this and look like that. And this religion, we don't have that. We're not burdened with ego. And just of those of you watching, I'm not quite sure what I mean by ego. Ego is how you identify with yourself. It's your story. It's your script. I'm worth this because I have this piece of paper to prove it. I'm worth this because my mummy did this for me. I'm worth this because this is my job. That's the ego, right? And I noticed when I had that implosion that the ego was running my life, and I'm not my ego. I am the awareness behind my ego. I am my true nature, right? So children then they're born
But
into
sorry, Nickita, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Just even to say that for a just even to go a little bit more into that, when you say I am the awareness behind the ego, I get that because I've been there, I suppose. Everything else dropped for me. So how would you, so someone in a very, I know you're saying the identity and everything you identify, and someone who's in their head and they've loads going on going, how do you come into that awareness behind? Maybe this is one of the steps. Sorry, so I'm jumping ahead.
this is one
Apologies.
of the steps.
Okay, fair enough.
We're born into families, more likely than not, who have mums and dads who are not healed. And that's not a blame thing. That's just, it is. They're not healed. They have generational trauma. And a child has two choices. They either remain authentic or they form an attachment. And that's when the ego starts to come in. So trauma isn't always overt. Okay, so it's so subtle. So let's say, for example, a little girl is 2 years old. She's out with her mother who loves her, right? I am not saying that these parents are evil. They're just not healed. So she's out with her mother and they bump into an uncle. And the mother says to the daughter, "Oh, go and hug your uncle." And the daughter goes, I don't want to hug him. So that's her authenticity. I don't want to hug him. Now, this is what the mother would say if she were honest and realized what was going on. You have to hug him because I have a codependent personality and I need you to do what I say, because if you don't hug him, I'm going to have an abandonment wound or a rejection wound and he's not going to like me. So do as I say. That's basically what she would say if she was honest, but she doesn't. She goes, just do it, do it, do it. And the child chooses between authenticity and attachment. And every single time they will choose an attachment, because if an infant doesn't have a primary caregiver, they will die. So this is where the ego starts to form and the child learns, if I don't have an attachment, this is the story, this is the script that begins with the ego. If I don't have this attachment, I'll die. So I have to acquiesce to what mummy and daddy want me to do. And then the layers of dust I was saying of that over that light bulb, they start to form and you forget who you are. And then it's further cemented. So all core wounds, like I could talk about birth trauma, for example, it's never a primary wound, never a primary trauma, it's secondary. So before age 7, a child will form 1, 2, or all 3 of these core wounds. And that's, I'm not enough, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be abandoned. And it's not the trauma. Trauma isn't the event itself. It's the perception of the sitter, of the person. It's the perception of what's happening. So that's why you can have 2 women who have experienced rape and one person will put a different meaning to the other. It's not the actual event itself. It's the meaning you put to it and the scripts you start to thread to make this tapestry of trauma. So you will have years and years and years of this script. I'm not enough. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be abandoned. That's the ego. So the ego has taken the wheel. And you have these perceived threats all the time. Someone hasn't texted back. Oh my God. And you're not conscious of it, but what you're really afraid of is you're going to be rejected. Somewhere it happened before age 7, and that's your identity. And then what happens is the universe, in all its intelligence, will keep presenting you with situations and people to make you feel like that again. So you can go, oh, I need to heal this. But we don't see it like that. We go, oh, that person's an asshole. That person's this. Why does this always happen to me? It happens to you because you're being presented with yet another opportunity to go within, but you don't. You project and you blame. Now, a lot of people have called me victim blamers, which is blamer, which is interesting. Maybe I haven't articulated what I mean very well, but it's not about victim blaming. It's going, well, you're not responsible for how other people behave, but you are responsible to heal the wound that they've held a mirror to. I'm not saying it's your fault that you've got in a relationship with a narcissist. It's a byproduct of your unhealed wound. It's not your fault. You choose it. So then I started to, I suppose it was trial and error, and I came up with these steps, right? So this is how you do the work.
Okay.
Number 1.
Sorry, can I just ask you one question before that? You know, when you're saying if you keep presenting and presenting, which I've absolutely witnessed and still do in my own life, it obviously then, you know, it takes us a long time. And again, maybe this is what you're going to go into, for something to click in us. You know, it took cancer for me for something to suddenly go, okay, there's a whole, you know, everything fell away and I was sort of nearly forced within. So are you finding more and more people, there's a timing thing, or do you see any pattern in what is, let's say, propelling people inwards now to do the work that you're talking about?
It's collective consciousness. People are ready.
Yeah.
As a collective, we've gone so far outside ourselves. I need validation in this and that and the other. I think people have literally started to implode and gone, right, well, there's only one other way. And I don't know if you follow Daryl Anker.
Yes.
He talked about the elastic band principle.
Yes. Okay.
So
yeah. Explain that maybe. Yeah.
And the further you'll propel forward. So that the more trauma, the more wounds, it will propel forward much
Yes.
quicker. I think that's what's happening. And especially when people are starting to understand generational trauma, this is really important because it doesn't always start with you and your childhood. And, you know, everyone has wounds from childhood, everyone. And it doesn't mean overt trauma or abuse or anything like that. It can be emotional neglect, but, you know, not having an emotionally present father, but whatever. So generational trauma lives in us, and it takes people to go, I'm not doing this anymore, to cut it, because when the next generation come along, they're not going to need to do the healing because we're doing it. And because we've tipped the scale so far one way, it's now time to balance it and come into your true nature. So this, I think people are suffering so much that they've gone, right, I've had enough. And they're either suffering to the point where you see poor souls taking their own lives because their life is so perpetuated by ego, the not enough, it blows my mind when I see people commenting on posts where celebrities have taken their own lives. They're like, I don't get it. They've got everything. What? It's got nothing to do with that. This is my point. Like, we all do it. I'll be happy once. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I've got the relationship, when I have the child, when I have the job, when I have the new car, when I have enough money. It's bullshit. You won't, because the ego at no point in your life, and I will bet my last bottom dollar, no one has experienced this where the ego has gone, you can be happy now.
Hasn't happened to me.
It goes, oh, the whispering starts. It starts all the time. Oh, excuse me. You need to now get a new job for you to matter, for you to be enough. It doesn't work like that. It's actually letting life work through you instead of to you. And there's a difference between a victim mindset and a healing mindset. And this is what I'm trying to introduce to people. And it's not, do one of Nickita's courses and you'll be healed. No. Healing is moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. It's not, I'm going to go to therapy once a week. I'm going to attend Nickita's Zooms once a month. No, it's awareness moment to moment. What is the script you're carrying? But this is, I'll go into my
Yeah, please. Sorry.
I've got,
Better not give too much away or nobody left. But as you said, I love that moment to moment that there is no, it's anytime I think, oh, I've cleared that or healed that particular thing, and I go, whew, and then maybe a week later or something, you can feel it, but coming to it with awareness is a whole different thing, even if you don't do the right thing every time. That's what I've found. It does come up and you go, okay, I know where I need to go with this. Sit down, Celine. And yeah, so it is, whoa. It's a lot of undoing, isn't it? There's a lot of undoing in
yeah,
it. You need to be kind.
you do, and you need love, not love as in an emotion, love as in a state of being. And
Yeah.
people think that they're in the work and they've been triggered, so therefore they've taken steps back. No, they haven't. You're in awareness. You're being shown something else you have to heal. You can't buy loads of new clothes and put them in a wardrobe that's full of old clothes. You need to take the old clothes out first for it to fit. So that's what triggering is. It's another pointer. Excuse me, you haven't healed this yet. Don't think that because you're being triggered left, right, and center, you're not healing. Of course you are. You're just being aware of the process. And rather than being a victim, oh, typical, this happened to me again, you're going, oh my God, another trigger. But you can't surrender and say, right, I'm going to heal without any challenges to test your healing
I
ability.
love the wardrobe analogy because that at least makes you feel, okay, something good is happening while I'm going through all this. I'm making space. That's what I got the sense. There's more space, doesn't there? Something exactly opens up for that life force to flow through you,
Exactly.
like you said. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So step one, and if you're watching, get a pen and paper. So step one is validate. And let me be really clear about what this means. When I say validate, I don't mean justify. So most of us have been taught when we feel something, we need a reason for it, blame, project. We say things like, well, of course I feel like this. He's an asshole, right? That's not what I mean. That's not validation. That's actually outsourcing. So validation simply means this is how I feel, without needing to attach it to someone else's behavior, without a backstory, without intellectualizing it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's step one, validation. Step two is name it. So now that you've validated your feeling, you can name it. What are you actually feeling? Is it anxiety? Is it grief? Is it rage? Is it shame? you've got to be specific, because once you've named the feeling, take it deeper. Every uncomfortable emotion will come back to one of the core wounds. I said, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm not enough, right? So which of those is it? So let's say, for example, someone, okay, this is a really good example. I wrote a post about the importance of breastfeeding, and my God, you'd think I was attacking people. The comments, you're invalidating me because I chose to bottle feed. Okay, well, I'm not, but what in you is not enough here? Because if you actually believed that what you were doing was the best, you wouldn't be triggered. So if I said to you, Celine, you've got the most ugly tail I've ever seen, you'd be like, what are you talking about, Stark? And then carry on with life, right? Because it's not true. But you can only be offended by hurty words if there's some truth in that. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you feel that you're bottle feeding your child and you think it's bad. You could be triggered because something happened when you were before 7 years old that made you question yourself. So you have to name it, and you have to understand where it's coming from. So what am I feeling? Which wound is this linking to? Now, step 3 is really important. You have to locate it. Emotions don't live in your head. They live in your body, and they show up as tightness, pressure, numbness, pain, or heaviness. And this is where we really suffer as human beings. So animals, if let's say a deer ran in front of the road and they got nearly hit by a car, but then they got to safety, they would regulate and they'd go back into the parasympathetic nervous system within about 20 minutes. We don't do that. We have what's called metacognition, which means we are aware that we are aware. So we have the ego, the story, the script, the threads, the tapestry that creates our script. So we carry this around. So we have this perceived threat. So if someone doesn't reply to you, or someone says hurty words to you, that's a perceived threat. You're not actually in danger. It goes back to your childhood. If I'm rejected, abandoned, I'm going to die. So that's all it is. The ego, when you are afraid, it's as simple as this. You're afraid of dying, not that you realize this consciously. You have to understand that your body remembers before your mind does. Before you've even created a narrative of why you're pissed off or why you're upset or sad, your body's already remembered. So get still, close your eyes. Where am I feeling this emotion in my body? So is it your chest, your heart? And that's attached to grief, sadness, and heartbreak. Your throat, that's attached to fear of speaking, shame, suppression, not speaking your truth, or boundaries. Your head, it's overthinking, control, fear of failure. Your stomach, it's anxiety, fear, lack of safety. I could go on. And it matters because if I've been working with a woman who has a thyroid problem, I can bet my bottom dollar she's got a boundaries issue and she doesn't speak up. Or someone with liver problems. Well, that's unprocessed anger. We store our anger in the liver, and it's always an emotional root cause. So step 4, after you've located it in your body, this is what most people avoid, and this is where most people get it wrong, and they don't do the work. They just circle around it. Right, this sounds really simple. Feel it. Right, feel it, because we spend our lives soothing. So when you fall over and hurt your knee, oh, don't cry, it's okay, it's all right, you're fine, you're fine. Soothe, soothe, don't feel that, don't feel that. Mommy, my teacher told me this. Oh, it's okay. Soothe, soothe, soothe. And then when you get older, doctor, I'm not feeling too good. I've got these crazy thoughts. Pills, soothe. Or even in spiritual circles, I'm not feeling good. My mental health is terrible. Go to a yoga retreat. Soothing. It's not healing. So this step, right, this should only be done. I'm not a psychologist, by the way. I'm not here prescribing anything. It is merely my lived experience. And if you think it aligns with you, take what works and ditch what doesn't, right?
This is the future. Sorry, taking responsibility. So we won't be coming to sue you or anything for Nickita said.
You should only do this step if it's safe to do so. Okay. So look around you. Is anyone about to set you on fire? No. Is anything scary, dangerous about to happen? Are you being attacked? Just as if you were crossing the M25, right, on a motorway, you would not bend over to tie your shoelaces. It'd be foolish because you'll get hit by a car. So before you do this step, make sure your environment is safe and you're emotionally safe. If you're on the edge, obviously you need further emotional, psychological support. But if you're just on a normal trigger, feel it. So let's say, for example, you've located it. It's in my chest. Draw your attention to it. Don't hook into it. Don't go, oh, that's because he did this. No, 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 no. That's a story. That's a script. Feel it. Just like meditation, right? As soon as the thoughts come in, just draw attention back to it. And something magical happens. It dissolves. After a while, it will dissolve. It's there to teach you something. If you put your hand on a hot stove, you have this amazing sense of touch and feeling, and he goes, oh, move it away. Your emotional feelings are there to teach you too. It's there to go, you haven't healed this yet. Feel it, feel it. And all of a sudden, something might come to you. Oh my God, this happened when I was a kid. And this is the script I'm carrying around. When you're aware of it and you've actually felt it, you can let go of it. And it doesn't define you. And then you can replace it. See, this is why affirmations don't work, right? I've seen so many people in one-to-ones in coaching sessions. And I remember I saw this woman once and she said, I've been doing affirmations and they don't work. I mean, what affirmations are you doing? I love myself completely. And I went, oh, no, you don't. You read. Why did you say that? If you don't believe the affirmations, why are you saying them? Oh, because they're meant to. No, no. Your subconscious, or let's change the word to inner child, doesn't believe you. So when you say, I am abundant and I'm going to attract £1 million next week, your inner child is going, bollocks. No, you're not. It's still got that I'm not enough wound. So you have to listen to that inner child and you replace the affirmation with something that your subconscious can actually work with. And so instead of saying, I love myself completely, what about I am willing to learn to love myself completely? Your subconscious can work with that, but it can't work with statements that you don't believe are true. So you have to sit with the wound, breathe into that place in your body. If your feeling could speak, what would it say? So sometimes, and I do this with children because it helps them to embody, I say, what color is your feeling? And they might say red. And what shape is it? It's a circle. So pick up the red circle from your body, put it on the table and ask it a question. If you can actually personify your feelings, you'll have a much better chance of understanding them. So why does this matter? Like, most of suffering doesn't actually come from the feeling itself. It comes from the fight against it, your attachment to an outcome. Now, I can't stress this enough. All suffering is an attachment to an outcome. I'll say it again. All suffering is an attachment to an outcome. No exception. When you resist what is, you suffer. And that could be physical pain. That's like childbirth. I say to women, you need to be the epitome of a human being, not a human doing, not a human becoming. Just be. When you start fighting it, that's resistance. And what we resist persists. So we need to stop and just feel it and go, right, this is what I'm feeling. I don't need to get away from it. You need to move through it, not against it. Now, step 5 is reparent that wounded inner child. So let's say you've come to this conclusion of, oh my God, I've got a fear of being rejected. I tell everyone who comes through my courses to print off a photo of themselves when they were 5 and put it on their dressing table or their office, or save it on their screensaver. That's who you're accountable to. That's who you need to answer to. So let's say you've felt rejected. Someone didn't text you back, or they said something mean on a Facebook post, and you've caught yourself, I'm looking for external validation. This is actually a rejection wound. What would you say if the little you was standing in front of you, 5, 6 years old? Would you berate them? Dickhead. You're such a loser. No, you'd cuddle them. You'd say, I won't reject you. And this is where the true healing begins. So you've gone through your awareness and your intellectualization of the problem, and then you felt it, and reparent, because your inner child is running the show. 95% of your choices will be made by that child. So that is why when you're having an argument with someone and they start throwing their toys at the pram and screaming and shouting, projecting, you're not actually talking to a grown adult. You're talking to the person of the age they were when they were first wounded with that rejection, abandonment, or not enough wound. And what we do, like,
We see it in traffic a lot. We're all in our cars, screaming. Yeah.
you'd be having a
Yeah.
conversation with a child. You don't do it physical wounds. Like if you had a wound on your leg, I won't put my finger in it. But we do it emotionally. But we're not aware. We're not aware of their wounds. We just think that it's an illusion of separation. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because we're in different bodies, we think we're separate, but we're not. We have a collective consciousness. And when you start to do the inner work, if you understand everything is energy, I hate to use the word vibration, but I'm struggling to reach for another word. If you're vibrating on a level of self-love and you're occupying a space of energy that is love, self-love, not don't think for a second I mean I love you because you're like this, and that's ego. But I'm talking about genuine who you are at your core. There's nothing but love. Fear is an illusion. Now people go, huh? Well, if someone came up to you with a knife, that's not an illusion. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's the perception, the perceived threats of, oh, they made me feel like this. It's all an illusion. The only thing that is real is love. And if you can come back to love every single time you're triggered and remember who you are, you will start vibrating on an energetic level that just, it's all it is love. And other people will be attracted to you. Other people, you will start to bring into your life, excuse me, abundance and things that mirror your self-love. There's this thing about, like, they talk about the law of attraction, where if you have positive thoughts, and no, rubbish. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So if you are self-doubting, abandoning yourself, rejecting yourself, you don't like yourself, that is all you're going to see in the external. If you are compassion, empathy, love, non-judgment, and instead of judging, you're discerning, that's what you're going to see in the outside world. And the more people do this, like, don't think for a second we're separate, right? This is so important. We are all in this together. So if you look at a pool of blood on the floor, you'll just think, right, that's blood. That is a separate entity. But that blood is made up of blood cells. So if you look at the human race as the blood, and we are the blood cells, that's what I'm talking about. And you can't possibly think that you're separate from other people. Yes, you're in a different body, but when you start hating, I saw this in the freedom movement, it drove me mental. So bloody sheeple, you're taking the vaccine, right? Okay, so what level of energy is that? That's fear. So you're trying to fix a problem with the same level of energy that created the thing that you're defending or attacking.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
There are the 5 steps.
No, they're amazing. They're amazing. And what I just heard, there's a few things, there's a good few things there, but I'm going to jump back to, yeah, when you were talking about, the ego and how I'm just getting this image. You said the ego develops. So from the childhood, we're innocent, it just brings me back because I sort of feel I'm in that work and I have been for quite a while, and I can see the child more and I can feel the layers coming off. So you're saying as we get to the stage where we are ready to start going inwards, so these ego stories, we're sort of, I suppose, taking them off. It's underneath that is the wounded child, really. The ego is set up to protect that inner child that you're saying you're coming back. So it's like the outer shell. And as it comes off, there's the little child sort of vulnerable inside. So I get then, so it's, oh, I get the shivers there, but it's beautiful. So you're sort of saying you nearly can't get to that space that you're talking about, the awareness, the realization that we're all one until you go behind all of that, really, isn't it? Because what you're saying can sound, yes, it comes back to the embodiment. That's my feeling of it. You can be saying all of this and people are going, and I know you bring people through it, it's different. You're not just saying it. But it's my sense until you start doing it, it doesn't really, that sense of being connected to everyone really doesn't land, doesn't it not? Until, well, my sense is until you have uncovered, the ego starts to come off, the child starts to feel a bit safer, and then you can drop deeper and you go, oh, now I feel it. Because it's through the feeling, as you know, you said, I don't want to use the word vibration. And I get it. This is where language sometimes is, because my sense, the only place, time I can feel that real connection with everything is when I'm down here, not up here in the head. Because so is it that sort of bringing the two together as well, ultimately? Because I've heard you talk about that too,
Yeah,
marrying the heart and the mind.
there's a saying, actually, in Alcoholics Anonymous: your very best thinking got you here. Don't think it's going to get you out of it. It won't. If you
Doing the
intellectualize
same thing
pain,
over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity. Yeah, it's the same thing.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, when we're in ego, you're always going to be suffering. You'll have an attachment to an outcome. I'll be fine when. I'll be fine when. But when you strip back those layers and you actually remember who you are at your core, behind the underneath the ego, your true nature, your authenticity. When you are authentic, you move through the world differently. There's one thing to parrot. I could sit here and talk about it all day long, but I embody it, and I still get triggered, and I'm fine with that. I'll get triggered and I'll go, oh, what's that? But I don't ever go out. I don't go, oh, they made me. No, no. What in me needs healing here? What do I need to give little Nickita here?
It does
What?
get easier though, doesn't it? Because sometimes people say, I remember at the beginning going, oh my God, I'm going to die. So, well, I am dying. I suppose part of all of that falsity is dying. Going, I can't let it die. But it does, like you said, and I'm not saying, I'm only saying it from, I'm in the midst of all this myself, is that it does move through much faster than I believed. And I was like, why doesn't anyone tell you this when you're younger? Maybe the consciousness wasn't available or ready on the
It
planet,
was.
the
Have you heard of the hundredth monkey effect? It was an island with macaque, monkey. What? Not a macaque's a bird, isn't it? Anyway, monkeys.
Oh.
They were starting to use, I suppose, tools,
Mm.
or they were opening bananas in a certain way. I don't know. And on another island where those monkeys had never met, they started doing it too. So it's when the collective consciousness is ready. So like when Tesla had an idea about electricity, someone else had the idea. We're ready. We're ready for the downloads. We're ready to start talking about these things.
So
We're
that's showing
ready.
the connection. Sorry, if people don't, if you don't
Yeah.
get that we're all one, that's evidence really of it, isn't it?
Yep. For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what then, when we start doing this work and more of us doing it, because this is the work in becoming authentic, how does this start to shift our world? Like you can say, like to me, with the birthing work you do and the when push comes to shove as well, like it seems it starts to bring us into choice. Like what I've experienced myself is the more that I'm doing this, the less I'm looking to someone else for the answers, and it starts to shift our world and we become more empowered. How do you see that affecting society at large? Because we have been in that sort of, as they call it, the white coat syndrome
Mm.
mentality of handing over.
We will become sovereign in our choices and we will take responsibility. Now, there is still a lot of fear, but if you, I mean, I've had questions like such as the following a lot. I mean, through the students I teach about birth and students I teach about self-development, they go, yeah, but what about when other people are doing this and my partner is doing this and they're still trying to mandate X, Y, and Z. Again, you're outsourcing. That is fear. Now, there's one thing to acknowledge a problem. Right, this is happening over here. Now, I'm going to quote this interview I heard, because it was amazing. There was a woman who was 108 years old, I think she was, and she was being interviewed, and they said, what is the key to longevity? And she said, minding my own bloody business. that, that was so true, because yeah, you can notice what's going on over there, but mind your own business. Stay in your lane. Come back to love. If you look out there and go, just imagine, right, you've got this invisible force field around you. Let's give it a color. Let's say red is love and blue is, 3D and fear. So you notice something on the news. Oh my God, they're trying to do this. It's going to ruin my children's life. Well, that blue starts getting bigger and bigger. The fear gets bigger and bigger, and you chuck it out into the world. And then we see things like 2020 happen, because the more fear, the bigger it spreads. It's a virus, but the same works for love. So you go, that's happening over there. What's triggered in me? Right. So the government are saying this. They're going to try and affect my life. You can go into the fear if you want. You can hook into that, or you can go, right, I'm feeling this here. What's this remind me of? I'm not enough. I don't have any control. I don't have any power. Sit with that. And then you start to heal it. And then all of a sudden, because you're living authentically and you are living or occupying a space of love, all of a sudden, these things come in externally. Like another opportunity to, I don't know, like I'll give myself as an example. When I started building When Push Comes to Shove, I knew what was going on, the mandates, the women giving birth in masks. But I thought, well, that's what I don't want. What do I want? And I just focused on empowering women. And all of a sudden, Mark Atwood interviews me. Never thought that would happen in a million years. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Tess Laurie invites me to speak at the Better Way conference on stage. And I got a standing ovation from doctors who always booed me because I thought I was a hippie. Right?
Wow.
So when you start living authentically, opportunities come in. And imagine if everyone started doing that. We wouldn't need these stupid governing bodies. I have it all the time. Well, Nickita, there should be a governing body, because what you can get idiots out there who are pretending that they know about birth and they don't. Yeah, that's a fear thought. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if you keep bothering yourself with what other people are doing or not doing, and you're helicoptering and you're micromanaging, you're in fear. And that blue is, now discernment is different to judgment. If you judge another human being, you'll feel that. It doesn't feel nice. It feels really unpleasant. And that blue starts to gain momentum. You can look at it and go, don't fancy that. Now, again, attachment to an outcome. I can't be happy if that happens. My children can't be happy if that happens. That's an attachment to an outcome. And that accompanies with fear. So you go, okay, that's not ideal. What needs healing in me? I spoke at a midwifery conference, and you'd think I was speaking another language, because I tried to teach all this, and then they're going, yeah, but what about bullying in midwifery? What about these stupid NICE guidelines that are causing harm? I'm like, okay, start again. You can notice them, but you can't make real change from the outside. You need to plant decent roots if you want to see good fruits. And if you can't do that, if you can't look at the system, because the system, let's face it, is just a direct reflection of our own self-hatred. We wouldn't be suing the NHS if we weren't in fear all the time. We wouldn't hand over our birth and then blame them when things go wrong. We would take responsibility and make informed choices and aligned choices. But because women are in their heads and they're in fear, they're not listening to their gut. They don't have access to it. So then they'll hand over their birth, and when something goes wrong, they'll point the finger. Now, I'm not saying that there are people within the system who are really screwing up birth, because they are. But if you keep blaming the system, you're just going to get more of the same thing. What we resist persists. So go in. What in you is a reflection of what you're seeing? Because I'll give you a perfect example. One of my colleagues, she's a mentor at When Push Comes to Shove, an extremely wise birth keeper. And she recently had another free birth. So she didn't have anyone medical there. She just delivered her own baby. And that all went brilliant. And then there was an issue with her child's weight. Well, a perceived issue. And she was going through the whole potential social services referral, all that. And I came up and saw her and I said, right, we're not going to take any action until this is fixed. What in you is being reflected on the big screen of life? Why are social services here? Why are the doctors frightening you? Why are they there? And you can answer, oh, because the system's this and this, that. Forget that. Why is it in your life? And she was like, oh, God, fear of authority, blah, blah, blah. She did something incredible. So a couple of weeks later, she was due to go to another doctor's appointment and she was ready to start getting defensive because they wanted to take her baby's blood and she didn't want anything invasive. So she said to me, I made a choice. I stopped judging them. And when I let go of judgment of them, something incredible happened. She walked in and a doctor that she had never met before said, I'm not going to take your baby's blood. There's nothing wrong with your baby. Go home and breastfeed your baby and stay away from Western medicine.
My
That's
God.
what I'm talking about. You change the roots and you will see different fruits. That doesn't mean to say that you're not going to get challenges, because challenges are there to go, excuse me, you haven't healed this yet. But instead of going outside yourself and outsourcing your happiness, oh, I can't be happy because the government are doing this and they're ruining the future generations. Mind your own business. Let them get on with it. They're going to crumble under the weight of their own fear and ignorance eventually. Your job is to stay in your sovereignty and your authenticity and your love. And there will be ripples. There is no exception.
Wow. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you can feel it in the world though, can't you? You can really start to feel it happening more. It's sort of, this whole even divide and conquer in every situation. I remember feeling that in my work before I left it, as long as you have that sort of external, it's the same sort of game that goes on, right and wrong, black and white, and keep people in that sort of external, one-upmanship nearly, that's where you're sort of giving away your power really all the time, aren't you? So this is the name of the game. It does seem like it's happening a lot more. You're seeing it, I take it, with the people that are coming to you and the women that are coming to you. I'm seeing it around me.
Yeah, it's
It's
beautiful. People are ready. They're ready to go within. They're not going to outsource their happiness anymore. And
yeah.
and and for those who are watching this and they're like, oh, well, my family is still doing that. Yeah, mind your own business. Let them get on with it. Let them. Nothing to do with
Yeah.
you. Just
Yeah.
be the best you can possibly be. And you might plant a seed into someone that you are labeling asleep. Now, there are two levels of awakening, as I said earlier, that there's an external awakening, or maybe the government don't really have our best interests at heart, and maybe I can take responsibility for my own health. And then there's a second level of remembering who you are. There's so many awake people, but they're still projecting, still blaming, still fighting the system. Forget it. Get it. Do the work. If you want to see a difference out there, you've got to see a difference in here. But most people don't even realize they need to do any work. They're blind to it. But that's fine. Those people are here to show you what not to do, aren't they?
There's a timing to all of this, I suppose, and it's going to happen in ripples and waves, as you said. What's your vision for where it all goes, even in terms of like your work now and what you're excited about? How do you see this? Or if you were to look ahead 5 or 10 years, how would you see healthcare, women's birth, life in
I
general?
would love to say that we will be in sovereignty in healthcare, but I don't think it will happen in my lifetime. My work is to contribute, to help start pushing this forward. I think a lot more people are waking up. Otherwise, there would be no need for when push comes to shove. I mean, we've got a 77% home birth rate, and that's compared to the national average of 1%.
My God.
And
So can we talk a little bit about it? Because we didn't spend a huge amount of time on that. So just maybe talk about I heard you talk about your own birth experience, I suppose. Was that what sort of led you to um, setting up when push comes to shove?
So I had my first child 17 years ago, and um, it was a car crash birth. It was induced because I was overdue, and I didn't listen to my authenticity. I needed an attachment, and I did what I was told because I was a good girl, and good girls accept scraps, don't they? They accept scraps from everyone. Oh, if I'm good, I'll do this. I better not argue. And I handed over my birth to professionals, and then I wondered why I felt jaded afterwards. Well, of course.
Mm.
So I was talking to my grandmother about my birth because I was so horrified. I had a vaginal birth, but by no stretch of the imagination was it a natural birth. I had everything. I had all the painkillers, and I had a ventouse delivery, so they sucked her out with a vacuum. They cut me. I needed 45 stitches. It was barbaric. And I was talking to my grandmother, and I said, Nanny, how did you do this 7 times? And my nan is from India, and she's so, well, she's so wise, she's so present. I was so lucky to have her growing up. And she said to me, what you're describing to me is common, not normal. And just that, I went, oh my God. And then I started getting obsessed with birth. And then I started midwifery, and I thought, ugh, this is, ugh, it doesn't feel right. It's a conveyor belt system. So I left midwifery, and then I was laboring under a misapprehension that I needed letters behind my name for anyone to listen to me. So I thought years later I'd be a doctor, and I started in biomedical science, and I thought I'd become a doctor. And then I left that, and I thought, no, this is silly. You need to be authentic. And over the years, I started to, because I'm being authentic, I started to invite in people to teach me. As they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And all these wise granny midwives were coming in, and I was learning about birth, the ancient wisdom, and the emotional root cause of all illness. And I was like, oh my God, it's all connected. So in 2020, I had my second child, because in between my first and my second child, I had 9 miscarriages. And it was a lot, but it also taught me, it taught me to go within. And don't feel sorry for me, right? It's not a problem, that my earth angels are here. And I think Dottie tried to come in several times, my youngest, but I wasn't ready for her.
Mm.
And so she came in, and
How
I,
many children have you? Sorry, Nickita. How many?
sorry,
How many
two.
children? Two. Yeah.
So when Dottie came along in 2020, and I caught her myself in my my living room, I was in water, delivered my own baby. No one's telling me what to do, and it was just incredible. And she came to teach me some stuff. And
Mm.
so then I started When Push Comes to Shove, and I didn't actually intend it to be what it is now. All I wanted to do was empower women. So I started interviewing celebrities and midwives and doctors who were awake and understood the sovereignty of birth. And, why don't you actually learn about your body, women, instead of spending thousands on a wedding and thousands on the right holiday? Why don't you invest into understanding how your body works and how the system works and how you can say no if you want to? And, just FYI, if people are thinking, well, I actually had to have an emergency C-section because of X, Y, and Z. Did you know that maternity care is only 8% evidence-based? That's it. If you go into a doctor for birth, don't expect a physiological birth. Doctors are trained in things when they go wrong, not physiological birth. It's like going to a mechanic to get your nails done. You just wouldn't. So you you need to learn about your options, your choices, and this is what I started to do. And then someone said to me, why don't you train people in this? And I had my not enough wound, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then I thought, what is this? What am I actually scared of? And I thought, well, I do know what I'm talking about. I'm not claiming to teach anything medical. There's already a system that does that. So then I started teaching people to be natural birth practitioners, doulas, birth keepers. And I've trained 160 women now.
And
And
is the core of that really understanding the body? Like, I mean, did you have anyone else there? So you, and you said when you had Dottie, you were at home. Did you have support there with you when you were doing it, or no? Wow.
I had my friend with me.
Yeah.
and she's and my partner, but my friend was an independent midwife, but I didn't have anyone from the system there.
Yeah. And was it just that you, like, it sounds when you describe it that when you go into that place, it's very, now I haven't been through it, but like in a lot of life, when you can go into that sort of surrender, obviously if there's nothing else going on, that you sort of move with it, you know, that it sort of feels something very natural. Well, something natural is happening. Um, what if for someone who's worried, what if something happens or what if something goes wrong during it? What do I do? Like, how did you feel in that?
I listened to my gut, and to be honest, look, I took responsibility. I was very aware that something could go wrong, because I, believe it or not, I don't think birth is inherently safe. I don't think it's inherently dangerous. I think it just is. And I think women need to connect with their intuition more if they're going to make decisions like this. Like, I saw a huge rise in free birth in 2021, so no medical presence and the women giving birth in their homes alone. And that's fine as long as it's made from a place of a decision from love, not fear. So you're just deciding to free birth because you don't like the alternative. That's not a decision. That's actually manipulation. It's not a genuine, authentic decision. That's a choice from fear. But what if, yeah, all right. So you want to look at the what ifs? You're statistically far more likely to have a very traumatic birth in hospital because you'll go through the conveyor belt system. Now, don't make decisions from this like black and white dogma. Oh, it's
Mm.
either hospital or home. Forget that. Come here. And you need to learn. Now, the one thing I teach everyone is the work. So when you train with me, module 1 is this, inner work. I cannot have birth keepers getting about the place in ego and reacting to their wounds. I can't believe midwives don't have to do it.
Mm.
It blows my mind, because then we're going to be making decisions from fear, or more to the point, thinking we need to make decisions for these birthing women. No, we don't. That's not empowering. It's teaching a woman, yeah, the left brain stuff. Look at the intellectualization of birth. That's fine. Look at the birth physiology. Look at how to navigate the system. But knowledge of the mind without the heart is no knowledge at all. You know, it's knowledge to know that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad, right? So we need to know what's going on a physical level. This is what happens in birth. These are the chances of things going wrong in hospital. Here are the statistics of home birth. Here's how to navigate the system. But if you're not connected to this matters not.
Yeah. But that's like the summing up of everything you're talking about is until you peel back and get into this place, like peel back the ego, do all the wounding, the wounds work really is the core of it, isn't it? You get there, you get back into who you truly are, and you connect it with here. That's how you move in the world. But we've all been going around really from, haven't we? Our society is been set up that we work from here up and
Yeah.
not embodied.
You lose an experience, and I genuinely believe peace on earth begins at birth, because if we can get birth right, and
Yeah,
babies are born into a sea of oxytocin and not adrenaline, you know, that is your baby's baseline, right, for their energetic system. When they're born, if they're born into adrenaline and cortisol, that's their baseline.
yeah,
And most of them are, because women acquiesce to something they don't really want to do, but they don't know they have another choice. So I'll give you an example about induction. And before I talk about induction, I need to tell you how physiological birth works. So we we produce a hormone called oxytocin. It's a love hormone. It's a bonding hormone, and we release a shit ton of it during labor. But if you have a perceived threat, oxytocin stops and adrenaline starts, and it fills your legs and your arms with oxygenated blood away from your uterus, ready to fight or flight. So let's say a few thousand years ago, you were wandering the tundra and you were in labor, and then you saw a predator, your body will go, uh-oh, it's not safe to give birth. Stop oxytocin. Leg it. Now, we don't have the toothy, bitey, scary thing now, but we do have perceived threats like adrenaline stimuli, like bright lights, feelings of being observed, a stranger putting their hands inside you for no particular reason and calling it a vaginal exam, and it's necessary. We have doctors, beeping machines. This stops oxytocin. And then we hear these awful things like failure to progress, inducer, she's not contracting. Of course she's not bloody contracting, because she's surrounded by an environment that is not conducive to a physiological birth. So a woman will be told, right, you've got to be induced because you're overdue. Now, overdue is a separate topic, and I could go on for hours, but it was 40 weeks was created by someone called Nagel in the 1800s. He based his calculations of a pregnancy on the lunar calendar, and we still use it today. 40 weeks, and that's it. It's rubbish. Not everyone has the same cycle. Not everyone has a 28-day cycle. Some women ovulate later, earlier. And it's normal to be pregnant up until 42 weeks, but we never see it because they induce you. So they'll start with all the fear. Come in next week because you're overdue and your chances of stillbirth double. Oh my God, so sorry, someone's calling me. So they'll say your chances of stillbirth double. And that sounds really scary. Well, double of what, mate? Because 1 in 5 to 2 in 5 is a very scary statistic, but 1 in 800 to 2 in 800 is different, and language matters. Now, you have to remember this evidence that they're basing this stillbirth on is done usually in a hospital environment. So, as my late mentor, Beverly Beach, said, you can't understand the behavior of birds if you observe them in a zoo. So we're getting all our data from hospital births. That is not conducive to a physiological birth. And also, we need to ask more questions. Well, in this study where you find chances of stillbirth double, what was the woman eating? What was her emotional environment? And why are we tarring every woman with the same brush? Why are we not giving individualized care? Because we don't have the capacity to give individualized care. We've got 10-minute meetings with the midwife. No one teaches you nutrition. No one teaches you how to prevent preeclampsia with protein. And then we have this false belief that our birth is almost Russian roulette and the chances are it's going to be awful. It's not true. You know, the chances are if you listen to your body and you nourish your body correctly, you're going to have a fantastic birth. So they bring you in for the induction because you haven't questioned it, because you don't feel you need to, because you feel that the system have your best interests at heart. And they start you off with something called prostin or propes, which is a prostaglandin, and it's like either a pessary or a gel that's inserted into the vagina. But what they don't tell you is all these methods of induction, they don't work like natural oxytocin, and it can lead to hyperstimulation of the uterus. Now, 9 times out of 10, the propes and the prostin won't work because your body's not ready to go into labor. And they'll start you on something called syntocinon, and it's a synthetic form of oxytocin. And it doesn't work like natural oxytocin. It doesn't go to your brain to give you that euphoria, that love. It just blasts your uterus over and over again with very, very strong contractions, very close together. Understandably, mama is in a lot of pain. She asks for an epidural. At no point do they tell you what's in it. It's 50% bupivacaine, 50% fentanyl, right? And they put the epidural in the mum's back. She's rendered on her back like a tortoise. She's not using gravity to bring the baby down because she's lying on her back. And the epidural will slow down the labor. So they'll up the syntocinon, and then that will make it worse. So they up the epidural. Now, you're not feeling the extra pain of the contractions because you've got the epidural, but your uterus is being blasted with these unnaturally strong contractions, and subsequently oxygen flow to the placenta is starved. Baby goes into distress. The BP machines go off. You're rushed in for a cesarean operation or an instrumental delivery. You're on your back. You can't get the baby out because your pelvic outlet decreases by 30% if you're on your back, because your tailbone can't open. It's and then they cut you. They get scissors and they cut your perineum and they suck your baby out, or they get your baby out by a cesarean section. And women end up in some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they identify with their captors and they thank the team for saving them for a cascade of intervention that started with these people in the first place because a woman did not go within.
It all comes back here.
And that baby.
Oh my God. That's where it all starts. When you describe that, I'm literally going, oh my God, no wonder the world is the way it is. You know, the trauma that starts from, yeah, I mean, that is just.
And that baby is born into a sea of adrenaline. And we wonder why so many babies are born with ADHD. And you know, it's not just the emotional, the physical as well. Have you noticed how many children have got allergies to everything? Eczema, asthma.
Yeah.
It's the rising C-section rate. So C-sections
Oh,
have
good.
become the norm. It's like just an alternative. It should be a last case resort. C-sections save lives. I'm not here to say they don't. They are absolutely wonderful. But using them as bog standard practice, oh, we'll just section her, is dangerous. And here's why. When a baby comes through the vaginal canal, they are seeded in something called the human microbiome. They swallow all that good gut bacteria and it kickstarts their immune system. And they get skin to skin. They get the antibodies from mum's breast milk. If you leave the cord and you don't clamp it, I can't believe I have to say this, but babies need their blood. And if you clamp their cord at birth, they'll lose a third of their blood supply. A third. But we clamp and we cut and we get rid of all those lovely stem cells and all that blood. So when a baby is born by C-section, this is not to shame anyone. And if it triggers you, go within. If a baby is born by C-section, all of them are born with wet lung. So when you go through the vaginal canal, you have a good squeeze. Your lungs start to get all the stuff out that they don't need. But with the C-section, it doesn't happen. So C-section babies are, I think, 70% more likely to have respiratory problems. And because you're not seeded with the microbiome, you've got no protection and you're allergic to everything when you get older. Now, there's a really good film by Tony Harmon called Microbirth, and it's on Amazon. He presented a study that we are becoming more ill as a nation because of the rise of C-sections. Now, when you're born, let's say a little girl is born by C-section, she's not seeded with the microbiome. Even if she grows up to have a vaginal birth, she can't give it to her baby because she never had it in the first place. We are becoming so unwell. And I'm writing a book at the moment called Born in Fear. And this is what I'm talking about. If we are born into fear, now I'm not saying don't have a C-section, don't give birth in hospital. I am sick of dogma. If you feel safe giving birth in hospital, give birth in hospital, but arm yourself to the teeth with knowledge of how to navigate the system and how to have the best outcome. If you are planning a cesarean operation, get a bit of gauze, roll it up like a tampon, insert it into your vagina, and when the baby is born, you can rub it around the baby's mouth. And breastfeed, skin to skin contact. You can fix the microbiome later in life with diet. But if you have all this knowledge, you're not going to be railroaded and acquiesce to things you don't want to do. I am not interested in preaching free birth and having drum circles. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in women being empowered to make the right choices for them. And if it's an elective C-section, you better understand the best way to get the most empowered elective C-section. Because when I see trauma, it's not about what happens to a woman, it's how she feels. So if she has no control over what's happening to her and she doesn't understand the next intervention will lead to another cascade, she'll end up in trauma and birth trauma because she feels birth has happened to her. This is why women need to be educated. They need to know this at 12, 13 years old so that when they grow up and they become pregnant, they're not shit scared.
Thank you for doing the work you're doing. You're amazing. Like it's really, it's like we've had so much of sort of the dogma, you have to do things this way. And as you're saying, it's not saying you have to do it this way. This is the key, isn't it? Moving forward, we have choice and we make choice in our lives and we decide what's right for us rather than letting someone else.
Women will end up choosing a natural option when they're educated. But some won't. I mean, some people just aren't interested in the vaginal birth. They want a C-section. That's absolutely fine. They shouldn't be judged for it. Look, ladies, right, you're going to be judged if you have a free birth. You're going to be judged if you have an elective C-section. You're going to be judged if you give your baby a bottle. And you're going to be judged if you put a boob in the mouth. So the bottom line is do what you want. Do what you want and own it. I wanted to give your audience a little gift, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Website, whenpushcomestosshove.co.uk.
Yes.
I'm giving away 100 ebooks for this podcast, a special podcast offer. Click there and it's about birth. So women who are wanting to learn more about birth and men, because we are all born. Birth it doesn't belong to the system. Birth belongs to humans because we are all born. So learn more about it. You might want to train to be a sovereign birth keeper rather than in the system, or you might want to leave the system. Come and train with me. If you want to understand more about the self-work, you can follow me on Substack. I'm sure Celine will put the links
Yeah,
below.
I'll put all the links in the description box. Yeah.
Subscribe for free, but we do have something called the Awakened Self Healers, and that is an opportunity to work with me. So you'll have a WhatsApp group that I run, and you can meet like-minded people. Accountability, you know, every day I talk about something new. You'll get blogs that not other people will get about how to do the work, going into the Starck method, and you'll also get monthly Zooms
Okay.
and one to
That's
one.
quite new, Nickita, is it? Because I know you had the Unity project. What?
Last week.
Last week, because I said, yeah, I hadn't seen that before. Because you had you've another offering as well. Isn't that really to take you through that Stark process that you're talking about at the beginning? That's
So
the, yeah.
that's on my website. So if you go to whenpushcomestosshove.co.uk, and you'll see two options. You'll see courses, which is about birth, and then you go to Unity Project. And the Unity Project, you can start with the mini course. It's £19. It starts to teach you about the inner work. And then you can do the mega course. And the mega course is for those who want to become healing facilitators themselves. And it's we're accredited by IPHM, so International Practitioner of Holistic Medicine. So if you would like to actually hold space for people to do the work, remember, we're not teaching you to heal anyone. No one heals anyone. We're teaching you to work on yourself so you can hold space for others to do the same.
I think, and I'm sure many others, of times in my life when I was feeling really, really, really low. And I can remember once in one extreme, like literally curled in a ball, howling, which was good because I was feeling it, but going, what do you do with this, or where do you go? Like, and there was no blame on anyone, but often I've heard that from other people, and I've experienced it. You want to do that, and I know what you've outlined, but if there's such a backlog from so many years, it can be very terrifying to take the first step. And you do, I think, often need someone who can hold that space. So I think it's brilliant that you're doing that. I think more and more, because it hasn't been available. It's always been calling me, like going, but how do you do this, and where do you go to find, because we heal when we do this. I heard just a woman saying to me once, and it was so beautiful. It was sort of an ancient wisdom where if someone was behaving very badly in a community or in a tribe, and they did something awful, rather than berating them or sticking them in prison or doing something like that, the community would sit down with them and say, what did we done? What is wrong with our community that that you felt so much in pain that you went and did this, whatever it was, to some other person? I mean, imagine the level of maturity and consciousness that a society, rather than going, stick them in prison, we don't want to know about them, they're not part of us. That's, isn't it? That's the place I'd love us to see us get to.
That's
Hmm?
beautiful.
Isn't it so beautiful?
In Norway, the prisons in Norway, they're treated with love and kindness. They have access to recording studios, cookery lessons. The guards sit down with them and talk to them because they understand the reason they're there is because they never felt loved. And they have a 70% non-reoffending in that particular prison in Norway. Yeah, because you only act out from your pain. That's it. You act out from your wounded self, and you project and you bitch and you moan and you complain and you go outside and you point and you shame. But really, it's all from your pain. And if you heal that, think what world we could live in, and what our children, what gift we're going to leave our children. If you start the inner work and you cut this cycle and you break those chains, oh, look what I mean, this is why the children are coming in now, right? The ones that are here to kind of stir shit up a bit. My little one is certainly one of those. She really made
Really?
yeah,
Wow. And have you heard of the telepathy tapes? There's a lot of talk about them.
yes.
I haven't really heard them, but I watched a beautiful interview, Pam Gregory with Vida Austin, on the water and working with autistic people, autists, and their connection consciousness wise with water, and what they she said something so beautiful. It's like they've chosen not to be as embodied so they cannot be as infected by the density of the planet, so they can start to bring through the wisdom, this consciousness, be really connected. And what they were communicating about the consciousness of water. And it's just blow your mind. Like, it's often those that we say have problems. You know what did they say? There's nothing, it's not about, you're not healthy if you're well adjusted to a sick society. That's not a sign of being, anyone who is sort of labeled something, in my mind, usually has some extra special gift
Oh,
to offer.
sure. I was talking about one of my dearest friends. She has two autistic children. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with them. They're here to teach you. They're here to teach you to communicate in a different way. They're here to teach you to go within more. Oh, yeah, you're right. And I said, they wouldn't have come to you if you couldn't handle this. They've chosen you.
Oh,
They've chosen you as their mama because you're the only one for the job.
yeah.
Not invalidating people's trauma, because what happened to you matters, right? Your trauma matters, and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility if you want to transcend it. And I'm not here to invalidate your experience. I'm here to validate your ability to transcend it.
Brilliant. We'll leave it at that. They're beautiful notes to leave it at. Thank you so much for Nickita. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm going to put all of Nickita's contact details and the link to get this ebook. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you. And until the next time, bye for now.